Okay, guys, we're going to give this a try. So let's go over our Chapter 11 notes. Hopefully this helps you. As you know, Chapter 11 is broken up into 3 sections, as you can see on the screen. So let's start. Section 1, couple vocab terms. First up is carrier. The second is pedigree. We'll talk about those throughout. So first up, we have recessive genetic disorders. So if you remember, recessive is regarding the recessive allele. So a person who expresses these genetic disorders will have the homozygous recessive genotype. So let's take a look. A recessive trait is expressed when the individual is homozygous recessive for that trait. And as you can see here, some examples of those disorders, how rare they are, their cause, and you can pause this to read through this, the effect, and of course, the cure, if there is one. It's just a quick table. I believe this was in your notes that I posted on Classroom. Obviously, true breeding would be homozygous, whether it's homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive, and then the others with the heterozygous genotype. And examples. Cystic fibrosis. It affects the mucus-producing glands in humans, the digestive enzymes in sweat glands. Chloride ions, Cl-, are not absorbed into the cells of a person with cystic fibrosis, but are excreted in the sweat. Without sufficient chloride ions in the cells, a thick mucus is secreted. Albinism, caused by altered genes, resulting in the absence of the skin pigment melanin in hair and eyes. So a person or animal or whatever will have white hair, in this case humans, white hair, very pale skin, and pink pupils, pink eyes. Tay-Sachs disease, caused by the absence of the enzymes responsible for breaking down fatty acids. Gangliosides accumulate in the brain, inflating brain nerve cells and causing mental deterioration. Galactosemia, notice galactose is in that word. Recessive genetic disorder characterized by the inability of the body to digest galactose. So those were the recessive genetic disorders. Now, obviously you can see we're going to take a look at the dominant genetic disorders. One of those, Huntington's disease, which affects the nervous system. Achondroplasia is a genetic condition that causes small body size and limbs that are comparatively short. So again, here's another table of the now dominant genetic disorders, which are in humans. A couple examples: the occurrence, the rarity, cause, effect, and lack of cure or treatment. And here's a little table. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and try these out. Obviously, if you rewind just a little bit, the answers are on the previous slide. But you can go ahead and pause those and take those down if you'd like. And there's a couple more of these that you can do. And these are straight out of your text as well that's posted on Classroom. So I got a lot of questions about this already. Since I guess technically this is our first day of virtual instruction. Pedigrees. So pedigrees, you can see there the example at the bottom, and we've seen, I think some of the classes saw some examples of pedigrees from their peers. Pedigree is simply a diagram that traces the inheritance of a particular trait through several generations. So here you see there's a lot going on. Here's like some some of the answers to a lot of the questions I've been getting, which is good. Keep those questions coming, guys. Don't be afraid to email me or post something on Classroom with a question. You guys can ask each other as well. Don't be afraid to shoot a text to each other or whatever. But anyway, I forget who asked me about the symbols, but here they are. So this is a little odd. You normally won't see pedigrees in color. It'll just be, black and white. So just an outlined circle with no fill would be a normal female. In this case, the all yellow circle. And then the square represents males. And in this case, yellow, but typically it's just a square. Sorry about that. And then if you see a circle that's filled in, that's going to represent a female that's affected with whatever the trait you're looking at with that pedigree. Same thing with the square. If the square is filled in, then that's going to be an affected male with whatever particular trait or disorder that you're looking at with that pedigree. If the circle is shaded in halfway, that means that female is a carrier for the trait or disorder, and that would mean that particular individual, that female, if it's a circle, would have the heterozygous genotype, and then the same thing with the squares. The Roman numerals represent the generation 1, generation 2, and it goes on and on. The horizontal line or lateral line represents two people having offspring, and that's where you see the lines. So these lines connecting to these parents. Obviously, these parents had 4 kids. They had a daughter, normal daughter, and a carrier, male carrier, a normal male, and then a carrier female. And those individuals in that generation 2 are numbered in order of birth. Just like we read left to right. The individuals from the parents will be expressed left to right. Inferring genotypes. Knowing physical traits can determine what genes an individual is most likely to have. Predicting disorders. Record keeping helps scientists, geneticists, use pedigree analysis to study inheritance patterns, determine phenotypes, and ascertain genotypes. So think about just using models to predict the weather. Geneticists use pedigrees to help predict disorders if there's any type of trend or pattern. So that's it for section 1. Section 2, the vocab here: incomplete dominance, codominance, multiple alleles, epistasis, sex chromosomes, autosome, sex-linked trait, polygenic trait. So incomplete dominance, the heterozygous phenotype, is an intermediate phenotype between the two homozygous phenotypes. So think of it as a mix between the two, the homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive phenotypes. The heterozygous genotype will be a mix. Red and white make pink. Codominance, both alleles are expressed in the heterozygous condition. This would be an example. An example of this would be sickle cell disease. So sickle cell disease represents an example of codominance, and you can see that both normal red blood cells and the sickle cells are evident in one's blood. So changes in hemoglobin cause red blood cells to change to a sickle shape. People who are heterozygous for the trait have both normal and sickle-shaped cells, red blood cells. Multiple alleles. A good example, a very common example for multiple alleles would be the blood types or blood groups in humans. So we have the ABO blood groups, And there's three forms of alleles. We have the A, the B, and the O alleles. So this is an example of multiple alleles, and you could argue this is also an example of codominance with the AB blood type. So here, this genotype this person would have type A blood. A person with this genotype would have AB. This person would also have AB. The lowercase I, think of that as the recessive allele in this case. So this person would also have type A blood along with this person. Here we have type B, type B, type B, and lastly we have type O blood. And some of you may be thinking, well, what about the, I'm A positive or B negative, or what's the positive or negative part of blood type? And that deals with it's called the rhesus factor. And I'll let you guys look that up. Rhesus it's not your Reese's peanut butter cups. It's spelt a little differently. So I'll let you search that, and you can kind of research that on your own. Okay, coat color of rabbits. So multiple alleles can demonstrate in hierarchy of dominance. So in rabbits, the 4 alleles code for coat color. You have Big C, you have the Chinchilla C, you have the Himalayan C, and then you have the recessive C. And you guys can look in your textbooks, you can look on Classroom on the text resources for that example. Epistasis, this is not going to go too much into this, obviously. Variety is the result of one allele hiding in the effects of another allele. So this has to do with alleles being dependent, alleles of one gene being dependent on another allele for another gene. So it gets a little complicated there, and we're not obviously going to go into depth about that. Sex determination. So you have the X and Y chromosomes. They're called sex chromosomes, and they determine whether a person is male or female. Dosage compensation. The X chromosome carries a variety of genes that are necessary for the development of both males and females. Females and males. The Y chromosome mainly has genes that relate to the development of male characteristics. In females, one X chromosome is actually inactivated in each cell. The inactivated X chromosome is visible in stained cells as what's called a bar body. So there are some traits and disorders that have to do with our sex chromosomes, the X or the X and Y, or just the Y. So these sex-linked traits are genes located on the X chromosome. Red-green color blindness is an example. Hemophilia is an example of that. Polygenic traits arise from the interaction of multiple pairs of genes. So skin color is a common example of a polygenic trait. You can see the typical bell curve for this. Environmental influences. Environmental factors influence an organism's phenotype, not its genotype. So diet and exercise, sunlight, water, temperature, these are external environmental influences that can potentially influence an organism's phenotype. Twin studies. This helps scientists separate genetic contributions from environmental contributions. Traits that appear frequently in identical twins are are at least partially controlled by heredity. Traits expressed differently in identical twins are strongly influenced by environment. So that's it for section 2. Finish up here with section 3. Thanks for sticking around for this long. Let's see. Vocab. Karyotype. Telomere. Nondisjunction. Karyotype. A micrograph in which the pairs of homologous chromosomes are arranged in decreasing size. Images of chromosomes stained during metaphase. Chromosomes are arranged in decreasing size to produce a micrograph. Telomeres. Telomere caps consists of DNA associated with protein. Serves a protective function for the structure of the chromosome. Nondisjunction. Cell division during which sister chromatids fail to separate properly. An example of something that's caused from this is Down syndrome, also known as trisomy 21. So here's another one of those tables I was talking about earlier, and you guys can look in the text resources and figure these out. The XX would represent a normal female. The XO, or just single X sex chromosome, this would actually be Turner's syndrome, a female with Turner's syndrome. The 3 X's typically results in a normal female. XY would represent normal male. XXY is a male with Klinefelter's syndrome. The XYY normally would be a normal male, and the last one here normally results in death. Here's another one of those tables. Again, I'll leave this for you guys to figure this out. Again, these are all in your text resources. Again, if you check on Classroom, all of the text for each section is on Google Classroom. So make sure you're looking at those. And then here you have your review questions for Chapter 11. So I'll leave these to you guys. If you guys click through the slideshow, you can obviously see the answers are there for you. So go ahead and try to quiz yourself and, dig into these review questions. As you know, we always go over these for every chapter that we've done this school year. So if you guys have any questions for me, don't hesitate to email me. Don't hesitate to text your friends, make a TikTok, Snapchat each other, do whatever you got to do. If you guys have questions, if I don't get back to you right away, I'll be checking my email and responding a couple times a day. And that's that. So just be safe, stay healthy, try not to go anywhere where there's too many people. As you guys know, that's kind of what's going on. So that's all I have for you today. I'll do Chapter 12 next week. So just make sure you check those due dates on Classroom, because that's when I expect you guys to turn those assignments in. I apologize for the Chapter 11 study guide. I forgot to post it, but it is on there, so just double check that. And that's all I have for you. So this is Mr. Case signing out. Have a good day.
That was just an audio recording?
No, it was actually